Ciao, come stai? Sono Stephanie Moretti. Sono di Roma, Italia. First, let me tell you a little about my country, and then I will tell you about the most inspirational man I once met here, and then you will see how inspiring and magical Italia really is. As I said, I am from Roma, the capital of Italia. The one thing that is very important in our culture is religion. Primarily, the religion here is Roman Catholic, and the Vatican City is Roma, is center for the Roman Catholics. Italia has a long history of art history. There are many forms, the Baroque, the Classical, many different forms, and there are many famous artists from Italia, such as Bernini, Raphael, Michelangelo. There are also many famous musicians and composers from Italia, such as Rossini, Palestrina, and Vivaldi. One particular art form that is very popular in Italia is opera and classical music. Actually, that is how I met the man that inspired me very much to travel and see the world in order to broaden my horizons to help my career path as an artist as he did. I remember the day very clearly. I was sitting in Piazza Navona, where the famous Four Rivers fountains is placed. I was sketching the Four Rivers fountains while a man approached me and started a conversation. I instantly could tell he was not from Italia, from the way he dressed, the way he made eye contact, just everything in his mannerism was not the etiquette of us traditional Italianos. He started asking me basic questions as to where was the best coffee shop in town, where could he find the best Italian food, and where could he see a classical music performance. Well, I answered all his questions and quite bluntly asked, "De dove hai?" He said, "I am from Germany." And he began to tell me the life and his reason of being in Italia, and here is his story. His name was Felix Mendelssohn, and he was born in 1809 in Hamburg. It was the year of 1830 when we met, and his parents had graciously supported him and financed him for a trip to Italia to tour Venice, Florence, Roma, and Napoli for a year, where he had hoped to compose a new symphony. During this time, he had been wandering the countryside and lingering in Florence and Roma. He told me that his symphony would have 4 movements, and they were to embody not only his impressions of art and landscape, but also the vitality of the people, and he swore that it would be the happiest piece he has ever written, especially the last movement. At the time I met him, it was in February, and he was in the plaza writing a letter to his sister. He told me that in that letter he said that, "I have once more begun to compose with fresh vigor, and the Italian symphony makes rapid progress. It will be the happiest piece I have ever written, especially the last movement. I have not yet decided on the Adagio, and I think I shall reserve it for Napoli." I found this man to be extremely fascinating, and I told him to stay in touch and give my address so that we could send letters back and forth to each other. In the winter of 1832, in fact, I did receive a letter from Felix saying that his piece was going to be commissioned by the London Philharmonic Society, with himself conducting the orchestra. Brava! He explained in the letter that the first movement opens with sounds of youthful high spirits and sheer joy. The second movement was indeed as he had hoped inspired from his trip to Napoli. In Napoli he witnessed a religious procession, which some call a pilgrim's march. In the music he created a walking or jogging bass line to make it sound like a procession. The image is supposed to be monks chanting their litanies. The third movement is like a minuet. And the last but not least fourth movement is the scherzo, which is very fast and inspired by an Italian folk dance called the sartorello, which is a leaping dance that is fast and jumpy. Actually, my mother taught me a little tune on the piano, and I will play it for you so you can recognize what it might sound like. It's a fun dance. It really is. Though I was sad to receive a letter from one of his family members to hear that he had died in 1847, it was not around to see his symphony published. A man of perfection, he left his instructions behind for someone to fix the symphony, but everyone thought it was perfect as was, and so it was never touched, and it was published right away. And still to this day, it is a big success and a very famous piece. Meeting this man in the piazza really showed me how inspirational Italia is from his historical landmarks, art, architecture, everything. Tutti. Everything comes alive in Italia, the people, the streets, everything. And Italia in itself creates art. Look at the piazzas, such as Piazza Navona. People don't live in their homes, they live in these piazzas. And that is why there's so much life. Felix, a letter to his parents, said, "This is Italia, and now has begun what I've always thought to be the supreme joy in life. It's fascinating how everywhere you go there is music being performed, whether it's in the performance hall, on the street, or in the churches. Music and art surround and make Italia for what it is, and that is why it is so special. So I hope that through this you will travel to Italia to experience the same joy that Felix had experienced and I myself had re-experienced after meeting Felix. Grazie, distinti saluti, Stefani."